is a collective responsibility. Gender disparities start out small in homes and communities, and these harmful gender norms progress and are perpetuated at the highest levels. In some countries, they become entrenched in laws and policies that violate the rights of individuals because of their gender. Discriminatory teaching practices and education materials also produce gender gaps in learning and skills development. Let us stand up for gender equality, support each other, and strive for a world where everyone can thrive and reach their full potential.
Knowledge is power, information is key, and that is why we aim to unlock the doors of opinion, unveiling the stories that need to be told. The Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM from 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. as we invoke the thought-provoking discussion, tackle the tough questions, challenge assumption, and give a voice to the unheard. This is the Morning Express on Mainland 98.3 FM.
Welcome on board the Morning Express.
Good morning.
Well, hello and good morning to you. Welcome to Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. My name is Sage Babalola. Another day, another time to talk, another time to get to know one another, another time to analyze issues as they affect you and as they affect me. My name once again is Sage Babalola. The program you're listening to is Trends in the Papers. These are daily dive into the reports that have made it to the front covers of our newspapers. Now, we have the Morning Express, which is more like the broader segmentation of our programs on here. And for the first segment of the Morning Express, we try to provide you with information. You know what's happening, you know the developments that have trailed, perhaps reports that came out yesterday, statements that have been made regarding it, decisions that have been made regarding these subject matters. It just sort of keeps you updated every single day. Well, today's another opportunity. Now, aside from reading the headlines, if you're familiar with our programming here, we try to provide you with analysis, which means that as much as we cannot read through every single paragraph that constitute that story, the analysis sort of summarizes all the details of the stories, although we advise that you also pick a copy and read for yourself most times. But if you listen attentively, our analyst does us the courtesy of sort of summarizing the often long reports that we see in our newspapers. And ultimately, we will take your feedback after analysis just to see whether or not you have a different understanding or perhaps a different opinion on the story that we had analyzed earlier in the day. Fuad Said is our analyst. He will join us virtually in just a few minutes, and we can start looking at our dailies. We're looking through the Punch newspaper, we're looking through the Vanguard newspaper, and if time permits us, we will just have a quick look at the Guardian newspaper. We're streaming live on Facebook, by the way, on Facebook and on YouTube. So please join us via Facebook and YouTube so that you can go along with us. Today's Open Mic Thursday, and that means that you get to be the one to pick the stories that you'd like to talk about. We don't have to streamline the conversation for you. If it's something that happened even last week, if it's community report, if it's a reaction to the stories from today, you have an opportunity to talk about it. Any and everything is welcome as long as it does not constitute a problem or is a breach of radio guidelines. I think by now we should be very familiar with the things we can and cannot say on radio. So we're open to take any feedback whatsoever, as long as it's of relevance, as long as it affects you or something you think people should know so they don't become victims themselves. Then let's start looking at the papers whilst we're waiting to connect with our guest. Today's World Autism Day, and there's a lot of conversations around the many problems within the healthcare sector that makes caring for people who suffer from this condition even all the more unavailable. Cost is the most significant constraint when it comes to caring for people that have special needs, and a day has been set aside to highlight autism specifically. The Guardian report sort of talks to us about how much money it costs for speech therapy, for behavioral therapy, occupational therapy, and this is something that has to happen every 6 weeks. We're talking monies, 12,000, 15,000 for 6 week session, occupational therapy 10,000, 12,000 within the same period. And this is something that goes on for years in many cases. So imagine having to spend that much money. So oftentimes, parents who have children with special needs, specifically autism, shy away from orthodox medicine and use alternative means. And in many cases, they worsen the situation. I think we have Fuad side now. Good morning, Fuad. How are you?
Morning, Sage. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well. I feel like sometimes you used to try to show yourself. Because when we call you,
sometimes like this, you have to juggle through with so many things.
You are still showing yourself. You are still showing yourself. I already said we'll just do the show. We'll never even call for this one.
I would have loved to listen.
Can you imagine?
Look, honestly, I'm not in the best,
right.
of moods really to review some of the stories in the papers.
I know.
Nothing comforting, nothing that gives you hope that things are going to get better really. It's just what it is. From party politics to the issue of insecurity, nothing. You review the papers and what comes to mind is that, look, we're just progressing in error. Right. While our politicians might be happy about the situation because they might look at if at least it benefits them in the immediate, but at the end of the day, I think would have to bear the consequences of the misrule that we have. Unfortunately, we are dragging our institutions into the mess, and that's even more concerning for me.
Indeed. Well, before we connected with you, I was just talking about World Autism Day. It's today, and The Guardian actually have a report. I think they do this a lot. Anytime they're medical days, world notable days, they write a full report about the problem, what the issues are, constraints. It even ties to the broader issues that we have in our health sector, and they're talking about how the cost of care at this moment, aside from stigmatization and the way people behave when they see that a person is different from them, that the cost of care seems to be the biggest problem for the quality of life that people who suffer from autism often have to endure. It's very expensive, and this is therapy, which means it has to happen over a long period of time, depending on the response of whoever is going through that condition, especially when it's children. It's more expensive, it's more difficult, it sometimes even affects the family structure because somebody has to stay home to take care of them or have enough money to hire like a live-in caretaker to cater to the needs of these children, or go to special schools that are obviously not cheap amongst other things. I just want to talk about Nigeria and how behind we are when it comes to providing care for people with special needs generally.
Well, yes, I think the Guardian newspaper does a fantastic job when it comes to medical conditions. So when it is dedicated to a particular kind of ailment, you see them, giving a comprehensive report, more like a review and report, in a global report. Then, of course, narrowing it down to our whole situation in Nigeria. Giving us data, statistics as to how bad or how well we are, dealing with some of these challenges, health challenges. For autism, before we even talk generally about, the kind of medical care and how we are able to cope with children with special needs. With autism, Sage, yes, I agree with you that the cost of medical care can be quite overwhelming, But I also think that there's even a more troubling part of the whole issue. And that's the fact that, look, there's this misconception amongst the average Nigerian that, children with autism are more from rich families. That it is an ailment for children of rich people.
It has nothing to do with wealth.
No, I'm just look.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm agreeing with you.
Yes,
I agree with you.
So for low income earners, for the average Nigerian who really does not have the information or does not have even the means to know what is wrong with their children. Some of these children are beaten, are bullied. Because again, they might just think that these children are just unnecessarily disgruntled. Sometimes they take them to spiritual homes for spiritual cleansing, and these are just medical conditions that requires medical attention. So how to even diagnose I know that these children are suffering from autism. Look, for rich parents, they probably have the knowledge, right? Rich and well-exposed, well-educated parents, they have the knowledge, they can, deal with these things. But for the average low-income earner, in our rural areas, for example, do we even have any advocacy as to educating parents on the fact that, look, you could give birth to a child, and when you begin to see some strange behavior. It could just well be autism. Do they even know what autism is? The level of awareness. That's what I'm even saying now.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you.
Because before we begin to talk about the cost of medical care and how available this medical care, is really in Nigeria, can we just first discuss the level of awareness, the level of advocacy? How many parents are aware? How many Nigerians really know the symptoms of autism, how to identify whether a child is autistic or not, before we even begin to talk about how to take care of such children?
Indeed. And a lot of our spiritual leaders need to stop in because when
those
they bring a
ones
child to you that, he's acting possessed, I mean, if you yourself were enlightened, you would advise that. Would you take the child to the hospital first? And let's be sure that this is not just a behavioral condition, or this is not just a medical condition, because I've seen it first, and these kids are tied up. He's too stubborn. He's not talking. You have a child who is 4 years old and have never said a word, and your first thought is this is Ivoire.
It's a spiritual thing. She is possessed. The child is possessed.
I think it should be called, if your child is not reaching certain milestones as they should, I think the first thing should be to take them to a healthcare practitioner and not to some religious center where they are flogged and beaten and treated like dogs. So they're 20 is where they will get their first diagnosis. They've been abused, they've been harassed, they've been isolated, and
they've made matters worse for them. The recovery
treatment will be at that point. It's true. Diagnosis should be the most important thing.
Awareness, advocacy
about the treatment and how much it costs, which is actually a lot for our side. It is a lot. A lot of parents have to leave their jobs to care for these children or pay living caretakers, and living caretakers are not cheap for our side. They're very expensive. Special schools are very, very expensive.
So there's also another one. This idea of also blaming women for giving birth to autistic children or children with special needs. I've seen people who say, when a woman gives birth to such a child, it's because her womb is not good.
Oh, please.
Or Danny. Oh my goodness. Look, I'm just telling you how bad the situation is when it comes to some of these things. We don't pay attention to them, but for parents who go through these things, for women who have to deal with these kinds of stigma, misconception, it's a big deal. We don't talk enough about it, but it's actually a big deal. It can be overwhelming for parents or for women who have to deal with these things alone.
Right. Well, our heart goes out to all the strong families who are navigating this, fathers, mothers, caretakers, friends of those who go through autism, who at least try to be around them and help them know that they're not alone. We also need to have, even for people with disability, buildings, for example, that can accommodate them. So mobility, even our road system. In other countries, you see the way they build roads. They have special places for those on wheelchairs, for example. It's easy for them to navigate. Even people who are not of sight, those who cannot see, there are audio what they call directions that help them, so they can walk on the street even if they don't have their sight. They can walk on the street, right? Unlike, I don't think that's the case here. Even with your eyes for outside, somebody would slap you on the road or try to ram into you on the road. Even with your eyes.
Let's fix our potholes first before we even begin to talk about this.
Chai.
Let's even deal with fixing potholes on our road. Let the roads be at least motorable, and then we can begin to talk about other road users. It's just, we are far on the, and the sad part of it is that when you say these things, there are people who think you are just exaggerating. They think that, you are just being unnecessarily critical. Again, you tell the average Nigerian that when it comes to the quality of infrastructure in this part of the world, we are probably 50 years behind. They will tell you, you are just exaggerating, because they've not seen it.
Well, there's the coastal highway, so
okay, that's it. I know what you want to do. Honestly, I will not go on that journey with you. Not this morning.
You must go on this journey.
I don't go. I don't go.
Well, for that side, let's come back to the reality of Nigeria. There's still a lot of conversations around the Plateau killings. Now, following all the questions around the action that the president will take regarding this, aside having a meeting with the governor and also our security agencies, the president have decided to pause his trip. He was supposed to go to Ogun State, I believe, for the commissioning of of the Gateway Airport. He has a full itinerary. He's still going to come to Lagos on Friday for Good Friday celebration and also to commission some projects here in Lagos. But he has paused his Ogun State trip and he's going to go to Plateau State to commiserate with the families of those who have lost their loved one following the attack that happened in Plateau State. Also, for outside, the conversation around this routine of, yes, there's an attack, people die, you go to visit, you commiserate, you promise to get the perpetrators, rinse and repeat, that there has to be some significance to these visits. What is going to change is the question that is being asked here. After that visit, what would you do differently? What systems would you put in place, aside making statements and saying that and security being deployed to these areas? Now, unfortunately, Fuad, remember that the governor, Caleb Mutfwang, had instituted a curfew after the attack, but it was relaxed till to 3 p.m. So people are not locked indoors. That from 3 p.m., be off the streets, go home. You should be done with whatever you're doing. After that curfew was relaxed to outside, fresh terror arose in Jos. We had mobs who came out and started attacking people in the state. Now, there's a university there. They primarily were around the university area. In fact, the Guardian newspaper tells us that one young man was hacked to death. I saw the video. He was beaten and he was stoned and it was terrible. I saw that video and he was hacked to death. And so I'm trying to understand the logic in the mind of the mob. Perpetrators, assailants came into your town, murdered people. A curfew was relaxed and then you come out to the street and you are attacking each other and killing each other. I do not get what exactly was the thought behind the action of killing each other whilst you're still grieving the death of over 27 people in your community.
Sage, again, this leaves me completely speechless. Because I saw the video, yesterday on Midweek Politics, we also spoke with one of our colleagues who's right there in Jos, who actually stays in that particular community, and she actually reports for one of the radio stations, one of the major radio stations there in Jos, and the story is so sad. The fact that, look, we still have to blame the security operatives and the government of Plateau State, because you are imposed a curfew. Relaxing a curfew, what you need to do is to beef up security to sustain the peace, right? Because what the curfew is supposed to do is to restrict movement, get people to sit where they are, stay where they are. So once you are relaxing the curfew, you must know that, look, there's still a lot of apprehension. People are still annoyed. There's the possibility of reprisal attacks, you understand? And so what you do is to beef up security, so that, people don't begin to take laws into their own hands. But what the lady told us, our colleague told us, was that, look, it happened that, look, they relaxed the curfew and there were no visible security in town. So people just took advantage of that situation. You understand? And we saw the video of that young man that was just one young, innocent person doing his own thing, going his own way, and then the mob descended on him and hacked him to death right there in the center of town. Sage. It's almost as if we are becoming barbarians, or it's almost like a jungle city. And the sad part of this situation is that, look, it does not appear like our politicians, our leaders are paying good attention to these things. Nigerians are becoming completely disoriented. Some of these behaviors we see are close to the things you see even in the animal world. There seems to be some better rules of engagement among themselves.
Animals are not hungry; they wouldn't even attack you.
Yeah. So, but just to go ahead, just killing for fun, or how do we even call that? So it's a very pathetic situation. Very pathetic situation. It's nice that the president has decided to visit Jos. Again, I agree with you that the visit is not the most important thing, Sage. Because again, the most important question in the minds of a lot of Nigerians now is, look, after the visit, what then happens? What is going to change? When will the killing stop? What idea do you have? What structural adjustments are you going to make to the security situation of the country that will put an end to these killings? I agree that's the most important part of the conversation. But you know what, Sage? I think, because I had raised that very question in one of my posts, and basically I said, when will the president visit Jos?
Right.
There was this conversation about him visiting Maiduguri the last time the suicide bombing happened, which he did not do. But visiting Jos, I think, would at least, maybe if, because the last time it happened in Benue, he didn't get to that community.
Yes.
Yeah, he just went to Makurdi. They had almost like a meeting with politicians and traditional rulers, and he went back, to Abuja. But now, I would hope that since this is in Jos, in the center of town, they would allow the president to meet with the victims, families of the victims, right? Let them express themselves to Mr. President. He's their president. Most likely some of them voted for him, believing that he was going to be able to give them a better life, provide security, and so it would be nice for Mr. President to hear firsthand from relatives of these victims. Oh, why not let Mr. President speak with Promise's mother? And so that they can talk to him. Let them express themselves to him. Let him understand the situation of things. Our politicians have become complete. They are just psychophants. I saw the governor of Plateau State yesterday when he visited the Asura. You saw that he had the president's cap on his head. We've seen it
before now, Abdulrazak of Kwara State, following that attack, and the next thing he was talking about bringing votes for the president. Like,
it's just so. Anyway, for me, I've lost hope completely on our politicians. I don't bother with them. Look, if you see me discussing politics, I'm doing it for the sake of the job. We just have to inform the people. But in reality, if you understand my perception, my thinking, and what I think about them, honestly, half of the things on my mind I can't say on radio, Sage. So, but again, it would be nice to see Mr. President, have first-hand information. Let the people talk to him. He's our president. He's the president of the people, and they should be able to express themselves to him, and then let's see what happens after that.
Well, very sad, very, very sad indeed. We're still fighting external aggression. I don't see any reason why we should be hurting each other and killing each other whilst we're grieving. I don't understand it. I don't know why we do that. Anytime there's unrest, we then start to hurt each other. And forgive me for making this reference. It's why a lot of analysts wonder why some of the violence we used to see in the southeast was happening. I mean, we understand that you're fighting against marginalization, which is an understandable cause. Nobody should be left out in national development. But then when certain individuals within these same regions now start killing people that live in the region, and they say these are collateral damage or these are spoils of war, it does not make any sense to me. You're killing the people you claim to be fighting for. Make it make sense. But let's move away from that conversation. Let's hope the president's visit does something in some way about this. We are going to move on to other stories. The Punch newspaper: alleged coup. Families of detained officers protest at National Assembly. Now, scores of children and wives of military officers detained over an alleged coup plot staged a peaceful protest at the National Assembly on Wednesday, demanding a speedy trial and the release of accused officials. The visibly distraught protesters gathered at the entrance of the National Assembly complex, moving in a slow procession while clutching placards with inscriptions such as "Don't kill our daddies," "Detention without trial is injustice," 6 months of torture, enough is enough. Amid tears and trembling voices, the children appealed for justice and access to their fathers, many of whom they said they had not seen for months. Now, speaking to the Punch exclusively, 8-year-old Halima Mohammed, daughter of Lieutenant Colonel Mohammed Al-Makura, said, "Please don't kill our daddy, we just want justice for him. Since he was arrested by the government, our lives have not been the same. My mom cries every day. I really miss him so much." The report goes on to give us first account of the children of some of these officers. Now,
families,
yes. For those who are wondering, I mean, everybody knows this story is more or less a follow-up. A few months ago, we had heard that a few military officers had planned, or allegedly had planned, a coup. Initially, this was denied until recent reports confirmed that certain military officers were planning a coup. Now, they had been arrested. I think 14 of them or thereabout had been arrested. Now, their families are saying it's been months. By now, they should be charged to court. What does the law say about things like this? They should be in court. Trial should have started. Let's know what the judgment is. Let's know if this is something that can be appealed. Let's know how to move. You just detain them. There's no trial. There's no nothing. Let's have access to them at least. That's what the protest is all about.
Now, say this is a very strange situation. This particular coup situation is strange, and I'll tell you why it appears very strange to me. First and foremost, I think we need to establish the fact that, look, justice delayed is justice denied. Right? You can't keep people for over 6 months without trial. Say it. I don't think even the investigation of a coup plot should take more than a week. Because again, it is built on what you have, the evidence you have and facts you have, that you've arrested these individuals. So now, because even in the military, during the military era, say it, once a coup is thwarted, an attempted coup is thwarted or by the military, within 24 hours the coup plotters are brought before a military tribunal and the verdict is given. It doesn't take long. At least you are not too young, at least you've seen and experienced about 3 or 4 coup plots in the history of this country. And once there's an announcement and it is said that the coup has been thwarted, the next thing you see is that look, they are being paraded, and that's under the military.
Yes.
The next thing you see is that there's a military tribunal and the judgment is given immediately. But now you have a situation where this coup was first announced by a section of the media. The military authorities first denied that there was no coup. And that's why I say it's strange. You know that the first thing was to say no, there was nothing like that, so don't mind the papers. So they are just, I think it was Sahara Reporters and I think maybe Premium Times, the online platforms. And then the military authority said no, there was nothing like that. So only for them, after close to 6 months, to now accept that yes, indeed, arrests have been made and that there was indeed an attempted coup. And then afterwards, nothing has been heard. Femi Falana SAN has talked about the fact that look, we run a democracy and these guys should be tried in a civilian court because we are talking about treason here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so whatever has happened, why have we kept these guys for over 6 months now without trial? Whether we like it or not, in a democracy, they still have to be given fair hearing, right?
Yes.
They still have to give them the opportunity to defend themselves. So why, that's why I say it's strange. Are we still investigating? Why can't we put these guys to trial? It's a question that I expect that the military authorities and the Nigerian government should answer immediately. If it is true that we run a democracy, these are soldiers, I agree. But look, these allegations will still mean that we have to give them fair hearing, give them the opportunity to defend themselves. Well, why are we keeping people for? It's straight. That's what I'm saying. Maybe there's something more to this whole cool story that we don't know.
Even if there is, there's no law anywhere that allows for you to hold somebody that long, except the court allows you to.
So, no, the court would even allow you until when you present them before a court, and then the court will now allow you to do that.
Exactly.
But you have not even presented them. Nothing has happened. And their families are saying they have no information about them. They've not seen them for over 6 months, over 8 months. And we say we run a democracy. That's why it's strange. Look, for want of a better word, I really don't know how else to put it. That's why I said it's strange. It's troubling and it's completely strange. That's why I said even during the military era, it does not take this long. Before you know it, we already see the faces of the coup plotters. There's a military tribunal set up. A verdict is given. If they are going to be killed, they are killed. If they are going to be imprisoned, they are sent to jail. But here you are in a democracy. The first thing that happened was a denial. Then there was an admittance, and then ever since no trial. Make sense to me, say.
Well, that is the situation the families have taken to the street. Perhaps this would be something that would expedite the process, maybe force them to, even if it's a statement or say something, or they're being held because of this, or at least we have some court judgment that allows us to hold them for longer, or they are going to be in court on so maybe this would force their hand and make them tell us something.
So let these guys have their day in court so that they have the opportunity to defend themselves. That's what a democracy, that when you run a democracy, I don't think we should repeat these things again, over and over again. It's just what it is. Let them have their day in court. You've arrested them now for how many months? It means that you must have built up a case.
Right.
Have diligent prosecution. If they are found guilty, let them face the music. And if the court thinks otherwise, they should be allowed to go.
Well, that is that on that situation. Now, let's talk about INEC derecognizing Mark Aregbesola as the party revolts. We're talking... What did you do that for?
Don't be correct. Rich.
Why are you like this? The way you reacted like, oh, now, wow. Okay. Anyways, for the sake of discourse, INEC de-recognizes Mark Aregbesola Party's revolt. Now, the African Democratic Congress, the People's Democratic Party, and former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi have protested the decision of the Independent National Electoral Commission to de-recognize the ADC National Chairman David Mark, National Secretary Ralph Aregbesola, and others. Now, INEC, through its National Commissioner and Chairman of the Information and Voter Education Committee, Mohammed Haruna, announced the decision in a statement on Wednesday. It hinged its decision on a court order which directed the commission to maintain status quo pending the determination of a suit challenging the legality of David Mark's leadership of the opposition party. Now reacting, ADC spokesman Bolaji Abdullahi and his People's Democratic Party counterpart Ini Ememobong insisted that the development was a calculated attempt to undermine democratic structures, alleging the involvement of the APC government and urging supporters to mobilize in defense of its democratic principle. So Fuad, I think it was, I can't remember his name now, but a member of the ADC who had complained and had approached the court that, you cannot just come and offset the leadership of a political party in the name of joining forces. In some way, I have legal rights to certain position within the party. Well, the INEC rather, has said, well, because of the court has said we should all maintain status quo, that would automatically mean that David Mark, among others, they need to just step aside. You're not going to hold that position for now. We're going to maintain status quo. Everybody as you were. Now, it is the parties, Peter Obi, for example, members of the parties, bigwigs within the parties that think that this is not ordinary, right? There's somebody that is beating the drum for the masquerade in the forest, metaphorically speaking, and they're actually pointing accusing finger once again to the APC, and this is an attempt to destabilize the party, to render them somewhat immobile as we approach the elections. What a conspiracy theory indeed.
Now, Sage, like Barrister Curtis once said, that if he looks like a dog,
barks like a dog,
and walks like a dog, it is a dog. Abi?
What if he's not? What if he's a cat?
I know it can't be. Never. It looks like a dog. It barks like a dog. Walks like a dog. It is a dog. Like the Yoruba will now put it. It is what it is, really. And let's look, because since that announcement yesterday, Sage, I've had to engage about 2 or 3 lawyers, functional lawyers who are well grounded when it comes to political matters and what the law says about party activities and what have you. Lawyers will never agree on the same thing. It's just what it is. But the general consensus is that when the court says maintain status quo, what does it mean, Sage? Before INEC recognized David Mark and Aregbesola, the status quo was that Aregbesola, David Mark and co were the recognized leaders of the party, right?
Yes.
And that someone had gone to court to say no, they cannot be the leaders. I used to be the vice chairman, and if anything is going to happen, I should take the chairmanship position of the party. So the status quo should have been maintained, not to de-recognize them.
That's true. De-recognizing is not the status quo. That's what was before. Status quo means what the situation is right now is what
right now. Maintain where you are.
Right.
Until these cases are determined. So what is the look at? And we are saying, how do you interpret in a way where you have now put the party in a situation where they can no longer correspond with INEC, they cannot run their congresses, they cannot have their convention. As it stands, they can no longer present a candidate. Sage. And that's why I said, if he looks like a dog, walks like a dog, barks like a dog, Sage, that dog go. Cannot be any.
There's no secretary now. No,
there's even nobody. Now if you go to INEC's website, all these ESCOs have all been removed. And now INEC has also said, they are basing it on the court. What interpretation? And that's just instead of us going into the mumble jumble of the law and then getting ourselves over confused. Let's just even make it so simple to say, okay, what does it mean to say you maintain status quo? And what is the status quo? As at the point where INEC was taking a decision, say it. Look, you see, depending on what everybody believes, it will be on record that Asotiwa, say it. It will let it be on record that we have said our own. He who cares to listen should listen. If you think it's all about politics and it does not matter, no problem. Look, we've seen things like this before. Say it. We were in this country where 5 political parties, say it, adopted one man, a sole candidate, Abacha. And there were Nigerians who were justifying it. There were Nigerians who said, look, there's nothing wrong in it. Because at that time, it was pretended to be a democracy, Abi. And then all the 5 political parties, whether by coalition or whatever, had adopted a single candidate. But Kilogbenye, say it. And you know, we've talked about authoritarianism in Africa, especially in democratic Africa, say it, where leaders use institutions of the state, democratic institutions, to perpetuate themselves. You don't understand? Have we not seen in this same Africa, say it, where a democratic leader will use the courts, for example, to ban every other political opponent? So we've seen several cases.
Yeah.
Okay, look at Tanzania. Is that not a democracy?
Well, now all our opponents prison straight.
I'm coming. I'm getting somewhere.
Some of them are even lost. You don't know where they are.
Some of them they even want to be whatever.
God.
And that's a democracy. And it's not a democracy.
Child.
I'm coming from getting somewhere. In Africa, that's what we see. The democracy of Africa. And what they will do is what they do is that they use the institutions of the state. They use the National Assembly, the legislature, they use the courts to thwart democracy and perpetuate themselves, but while pretending to be running a democracy. See? So it's not new. The pattern we are seeing is not new. It is only very disturbing and concerning because you know what? We are headed towards anarchy if we are not careful. That's why I gave you the example. Look at Benin Republic too. This man that is there, Talon. Before the coup attempt, you saw how he had manipulated everything. Sorry.
Messing with the constitution.
Messing with the constitution, amending the electoral law, banning people, weakening the opposition, to the point where in reality you think it's a democracy, but it does not really exist because there is no fair competition. The same thing if you go to Kagame, Paul Kagame. Go to that one too, it's the same thing. It's the reality that they say they hold elections, but where are the opponents? Go to Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, maybe they conduct elections.
Forever presidents.
But at the end of the day, in reality, they weaken the opposition, they either imprison them, manipulate the constitution, perpetuate themselves there, and we say we run a democracy. Now we are seeing a pattern in Nigeria where there seems to be an electoral umpire that is appearing to be complicit, where the judiciary has also been dragged in, shamefully so. Say it. Is this a democracy? We said we fought the military for. So when we're fighting the military, say it. When some of us, as young as we were then as student union leaders, being tear gassed, because we wanted democracy, even though at that time we never knew that amongst us who were fighting for democracy, a lot of them were pretenders. We are getting to know them for who they are now. See? So it was this the democracy we fought for? So the unionism, everything that we fought for. The people that lost their lives for this democracy. So this is what they fought for. This is what they died for. Caricature democracy, democracy of manipulation, where state institutions are completely manipulated. Now we have a situation where there appears to be no real opposition. Say, where is the opposition now? The PDP of Wike is saying that they are now well established to present a candidate. What candidate? Richie. You don't understand what I'm saying. After the Wike convention of the PDP in Abuja, they are now saying that as it is so to the glory of God, though, the PDP is now well positioned to present a formidable candidate against the APC in 2027.
Who be that?
Whereas the national leader of the party, the man who now owns the party, is telling you that for 2027 we are working for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Make it make sense to me, say.
They don't know where this one starts. I have no words.
And I told Dr. Emi on midweek politics yesterday that look, it's just that we don't pay attention to these things. We already have a very good example. You know, in Lagos here, you always say there's opposition. Every 4 years, they will present themselves as opposition to the ruling party. But in reality, can you say there's opposition in this Lagos? The man that contested against APC in 2023, Lagos for Lagos, where is he today now, Sage? He has gone back to the APC. And I was telling Dr. Emi when they were coming to our studio, especially that Lagos for Lagos, man, I said this one is not serious. One call up, one tell is even. The moment I knew that there was a problem was when he adopted Funke Akindele as a running mate.
She has fans.
And they asked him, Oga, in politics, what are you doing? You are supposed to get a running mate with some political vibrancy. How did you make the choice of Funke Akindele? He said he has 20 million followers on social media.
Yes, now.
So you know the pattern is clear. For anybody who understands this dirty politics, this politics of chop by chop, transactional politics, politics of it, what money cannot do, more money will do. The fear is this, Sage. We can accept everything. We can tolerate everything. As bad as the bad, Sage. But once we begin to create a situation where no Nigerian believes in the political umpire, in the electoral umpire, where we get to the point where we can no longer trust judgment of our courts on political matter, Sage, it is finished.
Well, PDP,
and we are close to. Sorry?
I just want to the PDP faction, the one backed by Seyi Makinde, of course, they're claiming that so far they've been able to register 4.2 million members. So
let me ask you a very simple question. On what basis the INEC monitor the Wike PDP convention?
I'm going to.
Is there no case in court? Is there no pending case in court on the PDP leadership?
I don't understand the decisions of INEC, honestly. I don't understand the yardstick or the metrics that.
And I want somebody to come and educate also, because if INEC is saying now that the reason why they are removing the names of David Mark and co is because of a pending court case.
Yes.
And a judgment that says they should maintain status quo. I am saying that, is there no pending court case on the PDP leadership, and what is the basis of INEC monitoring the PDP convention by Wike and recognizing the ESCO that emerged from that convention?
I don't know.
Like I said, let it be on record that we have said our own. We can lie about it, we can live in denial about it, we can paraphrase it, you know. Some people are somewhere now banging their heads and calling us names, problem seeing here. But at least to be on record that for the love of the nation we have said our own. And we have seen this pattern before. You see that I'm not going to whether there's somebody doing it or not doing it. Right. Let that be for people who have wisdom and common sense. So the one people and who can pick and read between the lines from what I have said and what I have not said. But I'm saying that at the
well, Fatai, this is even a conversation on its own. The politicization of state instrument is a very, very big issue, and we need to pay attention. When an institution that even has independence in its name is now being accused of complicity, it's an issue that we need to take care of. And that's why we had expected that for our constitution amendment, things like this would have taken priority, right? Sever the string that connects these institutions to the executive. We should not be appointing these individuals. They would always subconsciously be beholden to whoever it is that is the piper, right? So or the person who pays the piper, metaphorically speaking. But it is what it is. This is our reality. Our job is to keep you updated, and for those who are allowing the crack on their wall to widen, that multiple lizards are entering, we wish you all the best as well. Let's see what 2027 will be. Further, as we round off the conversation, manufacturers face 60% interest rate. As it stands, the benchmark interest rate from the MPC is 26.5%, but you know that that's not what is going to be for the banks. It's
at the desk of the bank here.
It's 60%. That is the lending rate for us.
Not even 30-something%.
60%. So if you borrow money from the bank, I'm sorry for you. That's all I can say. So tell me, Fuad, how much profit can you really make?
And people borrowing that kind of money.
When
So
you
maybe
pay
they borrow,
the bank-
maybe they borrow with the mindset that they will not pay back.
And run where?
No, what are you saying? Well, there are people who borrow knowing that they will not pay.
Banks
That way,
banks will not let you off that easy now. But
Of
then,
course, yes, there becomes a problem. Sometimes you go to court. Sometimes it becomes, because again, look, the lending rate at 60%.
yes.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where that's coming from.
That's the punch. That's what the punch is telling us. The benchmark is 26.5 from the MPC, but banks, they say some banks are a tad lower, but average is 60%. So tell me, as somebody in agriculture, mind you, there's wastages, logistics problem. Nobody's even buying your goods.
There's even the issue of energy cost, production cost, and then you borrow money and you're expected to do that at 60%. It's not going to work.
We're such an import-dependent country. That's
how do manufacturers access this kind of loans? Look, Sage, if you look at what some other nations do with SMEs, small and medium-scale enterprises, in fact, deliberately the government pegs interest rate for loans for that industry at a single digit. They make sure it does not go beyond single digit. Because they know that's the engine of the economy. At that level, you can create multiple employments. There's a way you can ginger the economy and make it work for the people. So they know that one of the things to create a vibrant economy is to ensure that SMEs survive. How do they survive? Make sure they have access to good finance. If you go to China, that's one of the things. Most of their SMEs are giving very good loans. Some of them are 2-3% interest rate loans, so that they can thrive, employ people, and stimulate the economy. At 60%. We're just joking.
We have to go. Lagos Benue lead as Nigeria reports 20,838 new HIV cases. So all of you, Onishino, look at your life now. Also, I know you will not say anything about that. Also, please, it's not only through that method. Be careful. Don't share utensils.
I was going to tell you that. Can you just educate people that it's not about
yes,
now?
Don't share utensils. Be careful when you go to the hospital. Make sure it's properly sterilized. But yes, most of the transmission is via unprotected intercourse. Have a nice day for outside.
God bless you.